You're on the Spot with Mande Wilkes.
Welcome to On the Spot. I'm Mande Wilkes. Thank you for turning me on this morning. Today I have guest Randy Page from South Carolinians for Responsible Government, SCRG. You've heard a lot about them in the papers and online and so forth. SCRG is at the forefront of the school choice, school voucher, homeschooling movement here in South Carolina. This movement is very important to me because South Carolina continues to be worst in the state on almost everything, not the least of which is everything that has to do with school from, preschool, elementary, middle, high school, and then through higher ed in the college and university system. So, I have Randy here with me today in honor of School Choice Week. It's National School Choice Week all across the country. So Randy's going to tell us about the legislation we have going on in South Carolina and so forth to promote school choice once and for all. But before I get into that, I want to sort of make an announcement that goes hand in hand with the guest I have here today. I've spoken a lot about family values and how I am running for Congress on sort of a newfound family values that focuses on valuing families, and homeschooling, school choice, school vouchers is such an important part, such an important element of that. When my husband and I were preparing to start a family and talking about it, I was really freaked out. How are we going to educate our kids? I would like to homeschool, but the state stands in your way so much with that in terms of curriculum and regulation and red tape. And we just don't have a lot of options here, especially on the coast for private school vouchers, anything like that. And that's not even to mention affording any of those options. So anyway, which is all to say, I am pregnant and my husband and I are preparing to figure out how we're going to educate our kids in this really, really backwards state, when it comes to education. So with that, I introduce my guest today, Randy Page, with the South Carolinians. You're president of the South Carolinians for Responsible Government, right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so what I want to talk about today, the General Assembly just went back to Columbia.
Right.
What's going on in Columbia in terms of legislation for school choice, that kind of thing?
Well, obviously, we've just gotten through the Republican presidential primary, so everyone is focused on what's going on at the legislature. About a week and a half ago, Representative Eric Bedingfield, Republican out of Greenville, has introduced the school choice bill for this year with 43 other co-sponsors in the State House. And this is a broad-based school choice bill that will allow any parent the opportunity to choose the best classroom for their child through a system of tax credits for those parents who have tax liability, and then also for scholarships for parents who are low income or special needs parents who need some help because of just the outrageous cost of tuition for special needs children at private schools. Well,
right off the bat here, you touch on something that I really want to clarify, because so many people say that vouchers and school choice helps only high-income families and it really hurts low-income families. Can you speak to a little bit of that? Because my understanding is that's absolutely false.
That is absolutely false. It's one of the biggest myths that the other side puts out there, is that it only helps rich kids, which is just utterly false. And you can look at numerous programs across the nation, whether in Milwaukee, Arizona, Florida, Pennsylvania, Georgia, a plethora of other states that have school choice. And what we've done here is we have established a scholarship granting organization where individuals and businesses can give money to this organization and get a tax credit for the contribution they make. And then that organization gives out scholarships to low-income or special needs kids to go to the school of their choice.
Well, it seems to me like low-income kids are probably more, well-positioned, well-suited to benefit from school choice than even high-income families, just because the way schools are funded is through property taxes. So when you have a low-income area, the schools are probably going to perform worse, and those low-income students are not going to have, choices.
That's very true. And I think, when you look at school choice in a macro perspective, all of us as parents, as individuals, want to see that each individual child has the best classroom for that child. With some, the local public school may be a great public school for one of your particular children, whereas a local private school might be best for the other, depending on what their learning needs are and how they learn. And so it's not so much it's a school thing, but being able to take something that affects each child individually and finding out what's best for them, whether it's homeschool, whether it's a public school, whether it's public charter, or whether it's an independent school, and giving the parent the full menu so that they can go out there and say, this is what my child needs, this is how they're going to thrive.
Tailoring to each student, that's what, you know, we're missing so much of. I mean, even me, I grew up in Horry County, you know, South Carolina public schools from the time I was in, second grade on. There was just no customization. There was no, you know, ability for students to say, this is what I'm interested in, this is where I'm having trouble. That to me is where school choice really could be so important in getting South Carolina to improve education, which none of the efforts have been successful so far. Let's talk a little bit about the Representative Bedingfield. You said he has introduced some
Correct.
legislation. First of all, do you think that that finally has a chance of passing this year?
I think it does. I think we have, you know, we've got a large number of people who are very interested in this. As you know, last year on the House floor, we had a piece of school choice legislation that failed by just one vote. And so
one vote.
Yes.
I think we really need to drive home. One vote last year stopped school choice from becoming a reality in South Carolina. South Carolina is one of the most supposedly conservative free market states in the union, and yet we cannot even, year after year, cannot even get a school choice you know, legislation bill passed in the legislature. One vote, it fell by one vote last year. You can thank all of your representatives out there, really. I mean, one vote does matter. It's crazy to me that it came down to that, and I remember that vote, and,
Right.
and I was like, wow, we're in South Carolina, you know, where we want to have school choice, we want to have free markets, because I don't know if people have sort of connected the dots, but school choice is a free market solution
Absolutely.
to the education problems we face, not only in the state, but in this country. So why have we seen such opposition, and why have we seen such reluctance to pass school choice so far?
I think you see a lot of, you know, we've got a number of organizations that actively work against school choice. You've got the teachers' unions, who, well, while they're not technically teachers' unions, act like teacher unions. You've got the School Administrators Association, you've got the School Boards Association, you've got the infrastructure that is in place in all 85 of our public school districts, and they consistently flood the teachers and the parents with misinformation about what school choice will do. And so it has ended up to where, you know, these representatives are getting pounded from people back home.
From special interests.
From special interests, right. Because they're being told, well, this is going to take all the money out of public schools, or this is going to do that, this is going to destroy public schools, which is blatantly false. And we've seen that in every state that school choice has been tried. Not only has it helped those individual students, but it has also helped to raise the achievement level for the local public schools as well. So it's a win-win. It's not public versus private. We're all in here about trying to better educate every child in this state, and school choice helps us to achieve that.
I completely agree. You know what, I've been hearing so much that 2011 was a banner year in terms of school choice across the country. And yet in South Carolina, we still don't see, I don't think, the push needed against the special interest groups like the teachers' unions, like some PACs that I've heard about that fund these, you know, representatives who vote against the school choice bill. I don't know if people know enough about, you know, the realities of it, the benefits of it, to be able to push their representatives and state senators and whatnot to pass it. Can you speak to something that you think is a huge misunderstanding about school choice?
I think one of the biggest things that they try to say is that it takes money out of public schools, which is blatantly false. Any bill that we have put out there, you know, they always will say, well, we only spend so little money on public schools. But that's not the truth.
We spend more every single year in this state than we spent the year before, right?
Yes. I mean, I think there have been maybe 2 years where that's not been the case, but it's been close. In South Carolina last year, we spent on average $11,752 per child.
And that's excluding federal grants and everything, right? That's just on the state level.
That includes federal grants, but it does not include construction and debt service and all that. That would be an additional $1,500. So the money's there. It's not a question of money. It's where is it being spent?
So let's kind
spent?
of break down the numbers a little bit. That's about $13,000 per student per school year.
Correct.
Imagine you guys out there watching what you could do with $13,000 each year for each one of your kids, the kind of education you could give your kids for $13,000 a year. That's why school choice is so important, because that $13,000 a year should be under your control, not under the control of the educrats in Columbia and in Washington. That's a huge number. I mean, I really can't imagine what families could do with $13,000 per student per school year.
It'd be a lot. I mean, we did a study last year and called literally every single independent school in South Carolina to get their tuition. The average was $4,400. So they were able to deliver a product for $4,400. Obviously, the public schools have some, other circumstances that they got to deal with, but it's not getting to the classroom. Studies have shown that of the monies that are spent, 44 cents on every dollar gets to the classroom. 44 cents. And you talk to teachers. I don't care if they're teachers in Myrtle Beach, in Greenville, in Charleston, in Lexington. They're all going to tell you, we don't see the money. We've still got to go out here and buy all these supplies, and we might get reimbursed. We hope we get reimbursed, but we've got to do our job, and to do our job, that's what we've got to do. And so it's not that there's not enough money, it's where is the money being spent? And no one's asking those tough questions.
Well, let me ask that tough question right now. Where is that other 56% of money, of that $13,000 per child, being spent if it's not in the classroom?
There's administration, there's all these other different programs that come down. Obviously with some of the federal programs, even some of the state programs, they're required to spend money on this particular thing or that particular thing. Not what the local principal, not what the local teacher thinks is going to help, but what some bureaucrat in Columbia or some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. thought, well, this will help down here. But, giving the locals control, allowing that principal to say, well, I've got all this money in this science program, but if my kids can't read, having it in science really doesn't do them any good. And so cutting some of those strings so that, the school principals, the school administrators can come in and say, this is a need we have. They've just not been able to do that. And frankly, I think that would help as well. So I think there are a number of different things that can be, put together to improve education for all children.
But let me ask you, on a super local level, are there any representatives? This show airs in Georgetown, Florence, Horry, Dillon, Marion, all those places. Are there any representatives or state senators in Columbia from any of those areas that have either been consistently opposed to school choice or have been consistent proponent of it?
I think all of the Republican House members in every county you mentioned are either sponsors or have voted for it every time. The state senators, most of the state senators have been supportive. I think the only state senator that has not is Luke Rankin.
Luke Rankin, I think he's considering a congressional run, so that's interesting for all you guys to think about. When he's running for re-election to state senate or running for Congress or whatever, he's opposing school choice. So
yes,
I think it's so important, because we hear about it comes down to one vote in Columbia and all that, but it's so hard to know. We have off-the-record voting, and it's just crazy in Columbia, and it's so hard to know how individual reps voted on these things and who's supporting free market solutions to the education issue and everything.
But yeah, there have been just some, out of Horry County, out of Florence, had some really good state reps who have stepped forward, whether it's Philip Lowe, whether it's been Thad Vyers, whether it's been Nelson Hardwick, Liston Barfield, you name them, they've been there and they've been very, very effective. Alan Clements have been very, very effective for us.
So is 2012 the year we get school choice in South Carolina?
I hope 2012 is the year that we get school choice in South Carolina. And you had previously mentioned that 2011 was a banner year. The Wall Street Journal dubbed it the year of school choice, as we saw a number of states that put in new programs and then others that expanded their programs. So I'm hoping that as legislatures look to see what other states have done and continue to do while we sit on the sidelines, that they'll say, maybe this is the year, maybe this is how we move forward. And just very excited about the opportunities we have this year and continuing to work towards that.
All right, well, where can viewers get some more information about what your group is doing to promote school choice in South Carolina?
Sure, there are two great places to go. Our website is scrgov.org, and then we have a blog that is updated a good bit, which is voiceforschoolchoice.com.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that was
Yes, that's
affiliated
us.
with your group.
That is us. So would encourage you to do that. And you know, it's been exciting this week, as you also mentioned that it is National School Choice Week, and Governor Haley has proclaimed it South Carolina School Choice Week. And then yesterday, Congressman Jeff Duncan out of the 3rd Congressional District took to the U.S. House floor to talk about school choice and why it was important. And that's also posted right now on our blog and on our website, so we'd encourage people to go up and look at that.
Good. Well, I'm very encouraged to hear, as I am entering my 3rd month of pregnancy pretty soon, very encouraged to hear that South Carolina officials and groups are standing up for school choice, because the bottom line is school choice is a free market solution to the educational issue that we face in this state and in this country. So thank you so much, Mr. Randy Page, for being here and talking about school choice. That's scrgov.org. I will have that on my website, and it's also right underneath my face, so you can go to that and get more information about school choice. And when I come back, we'll talk about other free market solutions to the other myriad problems that we face in this state. I will be right back. All right, welcome back. So we talked about a free market solution to the education problems that we face in South Carolina, and that's school choice. Now, what about free market solutions to other problems we face, like unemployment and joblessness and the housing market and all that kind of stuff? Well, something's happening here in Horry County again, having to do with the bike rallies again, having to do with the Horry County Council again, that really, really scares me in terms of the free market being pushed aside by the government who wants to take over the role of allocating capital and dictating, business and results and everything else. What I'm talking about is some talk and chatter among Horry County Council members that they might just not issue vendor permits at all during the May Harley bike rally. That is absolutely just insane in an election year, a huge election year, when all we hear about is jobs, unemployment, getting people back to work, the housing crisis. And what does the Horry County Council consider doing? Not issuing vendor permits at all. That means that probably there won't be a resurgence ever again. If we mess this up, there probably will not be a resurgence ever again of the booming business that we used to see here during the month of May. I'm very disturbed by this. I really hold Horry County Council Chairman Tom Rice accountable for that. He is the chairman after all, but I don't know if I can blame him too much. He's running for Congress against me, so who knows, maybe he's too busy with his campaign, campaigning for higher office, to worry about you all and whether or not you're going to have jobs and businesses and any way to make money come the spring and come May and come the bike rally. Now this issue gets very emotional. People get people say that the bike rallies make Myrtle Beach look trashy and not family oriented. I'm not going to get into all that. Basically, they want to come here, they want to spend our money. If you want to close your business, if you don't like them, if you want to write letters to the editor about how annoying bikers are, and I agree, they're so annoying, then do that. But we don't need, and you can do that as private citizens. What we don't need is the Horry County Council or the Myrtle Beach City Council or any of these councils and officials and everything else getting in the way of the free market. I try to talk a lot about free market solutions on this show because when I go to Washington, that's what I'm going to promote and pursue is free market principles, free market solutions. The government can't create jobs, but the government can get in the way of the private sector creating jobs. I think that's what we see going on here with this, chatter with the Horry County Council about talking about not issuing vendors for the May bike rally. So staying a little bit on that topic, but moving to a national level, we hear a lot of talk about, is Obama electable, come November and all this stuff, and people always say, well, voters are going to ask themselves if they're in a better position now than they were 4 years ago. I don't think that's the right question to ask. I think the right question to ask is, are you in a better position now than you were $4 trillion ago, not 4 years ago? Because $4 trillion is the amount by which the national deficit has grown since Obama's taken office. I don't blame Obama single-handedly for this. I blame Congress. They're just as much, if not more, to blame for the huge deficit But I do think it's important that we frame this issue in the right way. It's not about, are you better off economically today than you were 4 years ago? It's about, are you better off economically today than you were $4 trillion ago? And by any measure imaginable, you're not better off and I'm not better off. All right, I'll be right back with Government Gone Wild. Welcome back to the Government Gone Wild segment of the week. All right, I have a couple of cool things this week. The first is some really depressing news. Federal workers owe over $1 billion in back taxes. This is 98,000 federal workers owing $1.03 billion in unpaid taxes at the end of 2010, the last fiscal year available. Over $1 billion, billion with a B, in back taxes that federal workers owe. This bothers me not only because federal workers are making money from tax dollars and then they can't even be bothered to pay taxes, and there seems to be no real penalty for them, you know, over and beyond what the rest of us have when we don't pay taxes. But it also bothers me because it's an example of government bloating, just how bloated and huge and unnecessarily huge the government is. I mean, you have 98,000 federal workers that don't even pay their taxes. How many other millions of federal workers, you know, is it out there? We have a problem in this country when the biggest employer is government, and then an even bigger problem with this, you know, situation where these government workers aren't even paying their taxes when they're paid with tax dollars. So I just can't imagine anything more egregious. And then the second thing we have in Government Gone Wild today is a high school in Salt Lake City, Utah. The students in the high school had voted to have their team name be called the Cougars. Makes sense to me. Cougars are fast and kind of fierce and ferocious, and you know, who wouldn't want their team mascot to be a cougar? But the school board in Salt Lake City said no, because they didn't want to offend middle-aged women who call themselves cougars by dating guys in their 20s, guys my age actually. So the students are not allowed to call their team mascot and call their team the Cougars because they don't want to offend middle-aged cougars. So says the school board. I don't understand that. I don't even know what to say. That's government gone wild to the extreme. I will be right back with what's got me hot and bothered this week. See you in just a minute. Welcome back. I'm hot and I'm bothered, and it's not just because you decided to turn me on in your living room this morning. Today I am hot for Senator Rand Paul. Now, Rand Paul is the son of presidential candidate Ron Paul, my homeboy. I voted for him enthusiastically in the primary last week. So impressed by Ron Paul, equally impressed by his son Rand. He's a new senator as of 2010. He's standing up for, you know, what's supposed to be Tea Party principles, small government principles. And why am I hot for him this week? Because he was detained by the TSA after refusing to undergo a frisk, a pat down, whatever the TSA is calling it these days. I don't know, something happened with his, when he went through the metal detectors, and the TSA wanted to pat him down and give him the, you know, the full body treatment, so to speak. And he declined, and so he was detained. Now, it's not really, you know, a huge deal, but it is a big deal when somebody who is so front and center and can, you know, has such a voice to stand up for civil liberties. We hear so much about, you know, foreign policy and the economy and that kind of thing that I think sometimes civil liberties and the issue of personal freedom and liberty really gets overlooked. We live in a time when the government is trying to take away personal liberty in the name of safety. I don't agree with that at all. That will not be the way I operate in Washington. Personal liberty, personal freedom, civil liberty, that, as much as anything, is what, you know, this country was founded on, and what we have to get back to. So I am hot for Rand Paul, son of Ron Paul, this week, because he stood up for civil liberties, brought attention to something, huge national attention. I mean, this was on every news site I saw this week. He brought national attention to an issue that I think is getting ignored too much. And now for what's got me bothered. What does have me bothered this week? Oh, the smoking ban in North Myrtle Beach. Now, this hasn't passed yet, but it's passed a first reading, and it's poised to pass, I think, February 6th. North Myrtle Beach City Council has decided to join Atlantic Beach and Surfside Beach in preventing people from smoking in businesses and certain public areas and that kind of thing. Basically preventing people from doing illegal activity anywhere in public. Now, I'm kind of a health nut. I really am kind of a health nut. I don't believe in smoking or anything like that, but I do believe that you have the right to do something that's legal. Smoking is legal the last time I checked. And I just, this is both a civil liberties thing, which is what we're just talking about, and also a financial economic thing. I mean, this is when you see the two intersect. Because people, Surfside businesses and Atlantic Beach businesses are suffering because of this ban on smoking. I mean, you can't, smoke in places and if you're a smoker, you're not going to go to those places. You're going to go 5 feet over into the next town, where smoking is allowed. So North Myrtle Beach is just hurting its businesses, hurting its small businesses disproportionately by such a draconian, senseless ban. So that is why this week I am bothered by the North Myrtle Beach City Council for this crazy smoking ban that's going to kill business there. Before I end the show today, I want to talk a little bit about my run for Congress. I've gotten a lot of feedback about it. Everybody seems very happy. Look for more info on my website. I'm going to be having meet and greets. We're really going to kick this thing off. I am ready to go to Washington. It seems like you're ready to send me to Washington, so I'm very excited. Keep checking my website, mandewilkes.com. Keep looking for announcements on the show, on my website, in the papers and such about meet and greets and ways you can connect with me, meet me, find out what I'm about. One thing I do have to talk about, I have to get this out of the way, you hear a lot about super PACs right now. You hear a lot about how the presidential candidates like Romney and Gingrich are financing their campaigns. And they're doing it through these, special interest groups, 1 or 2 people writing huge $1 million checks. Well, there won't be any super PACs contributing or having anything to do with my campaign, I assure you, because I pretty much diss, those guys who do that, the good old boys, every single week here on the show, so they will not be contributing. I hope you will contribute. I hope you will join me to send me to Washington so that I can fight for you and with you and against those boys in Washington. Send any donations you have to the address right there, and I will be very appreciative and can't wait to see what we can do together sending me to Washington. All right, I am having to wrap up the show this week. MandeWilkes.com. Till then, next Sunday, same time, same place. Thank you for turning me on, and I hope I turned you on. I'm Mande Wilkes.